So, here we go. First, I'm doing the first one. If you have a question about one of the others, we'll get to it. But right now, Moses, sit down. I need everybody. Ashley?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that done?
Almost.
Okay.
My ankle. My other ankle.
Okay. Want to get our ankles lotioned up.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go.
Yes, I do.
All right. All right, here we go. Looks like we're all here today. Good. Okay. Step one, switch the variables. If you miss this, would you please make corrections on your quiz so that when you study it for the next time you see it, which will definitely be on test day, maybe you can go back and review and get this right. So step one, switch your variables. What's step two?
Take your denominator.
Yep, take your denominator over. Multiply both sides by y minus 2. Distribute over here. Now here's where some of you went wrong. Once you get distributed, you got to rearrange so that everything with a y is on one side and everything without a y is on the other side. So this came over here and this came over here. Now what did we do that for? So that we could now take out the y. And then last step, divide. Does anybody have a question about that? Does anybody have a question about one of the other ones? Lindsay? When we do the sketch, I think it is best, if you're having trouble with it, I think it's best for you to label all of the points on the original. So on the original, the points are -4, 0. I'm going in order, starting on left, going right. And then -3, -2. So you see that this is the original, Lindsay. I'm just listing the original points. And then -1, -2, 0, 0, 1, 2, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, -3, and 1, 2, 4, 0. Now those are the points on the original graph. When I do the inverse, I just turn them around. And I'm going to do them in the same order I wrote them down. So I'm going to do 0, -4 first. And then -2, -3. -2, -1, and 0, 0. So there's my first 4 points. 2, 1, 0, 2. So there's my next 2. -3, 3, and 0, 4.
So you flip the numbers, but you also change their signs.
No, you don't change your sign. This becomes 0, -4, and that's why I plotted it right there. And that's -2, -3. That's why I plotted it right here. -2, -3.
Oh, when you're like 4, 0, you don't have a negative sign, so that's my question.
No, 4 is this one?
Yeah.
No, these are the original points.
Oh, okay, okay, I got you, sorry.
So then I plotted 0, 4 for the last one. Okay? All right, Lindsay? All right, anybody else have a question about that quiz? All right, tomorrow, like I said, we're gonna have another one. So take out a sheet of paper and let's do a couple of practice problems. This is a practice quiz. I just don't have one already made up, so we'll do it this way. So write down the problem.
Oh, okay. We're graphing like how we did yesterday. Do you want to put it tomorrow?
I'm going to show you what's on the quiz. Okay? So let's just write this down. Okay, here's the first question on tomorrow's quiz. This is our practice right now. We're not practicing again tomorrow. We're going to do it for real tomorrow. This is our practice. So here's the given. Anybody have an idea how to do A?
You have to get
Exactly. We'll just come up here and say, okay, I'm going to put in -2 for t. That's what it says. T equals -2. So if I just take each of these equations and I put in -2, what do I come up with? What do I get for x? 0. And what do I get for y?
3.
There you go.
With the x now. Because when we subtracted 2 over, we still have the x.
Okay, now wait a minute. No, this says find the values of x and y if you let t be -2.
Oh, okay.
I'm just letting t be -2.
I thought we were doing the substitute.
So x equals 0 and y equals 3. You guys don't, this is not hard. This is let t be -2. Put a -2 right there. What does that tell you about x? It's 0. What does that tell you about y? It's 3. That's your x and y coordinate pair. That's what you're looking for, is the coordinate pair. So all we have to do is plug in whatever t value they gave me. So if this had said, instead of t equals -2, if it would have said t equals 5, what would be the ordered pair if t equals 5? 17. That's all there is to that. Plug in whatever t value you're given. And your answer will be an ordered pair. Okay? Now the second one says we're going to find a single equation. So instead of having 2 equations, we're going to have 1. So we'll get t by itself, and it looks like that first equation would be the easiest one, right? So x minus 2 equals t. And then what do I do with this x minus 2? I go to my other equation, and instead of t, I write x minus 2. So 2x minus 4 plus 7. I came up with 2x plus 3, y equals 2x plus 3 as my equation. Any question about either one of those before? That's question 1. There's only 2 questions. This one has 2 parts and the next one has 2 parts.
It'll be just like this.
Just like this. I mean, obviously the equations are going to be different. Austin, what's the matter? Okay, we good? All right, here's the next question. Number 2. All right, here we go. Oh, I gotta give you the original. I'll put it right here in the middle. Here's the original picture. There's the original picture. And you're going to draw 2 variations of it. All right, so let's look at the first one, letter A. Any idea how we're going to handle that? Well, it's got a negative in it. Negatives always mean some kind of flip. You have 2 choices, upside down or sideways. Which is it when we have it on the X itself? Sideways, right and left. That's exactly right. So we're going to take this V right here, and instead of drawing it on the left side, we're going to draw it on the right side. It's going to be exactly the same V. It's just drawn over on the right side of the picture. And see that circle right there? Instead of being drawn on the right side, it's going to be drawn on the left side. There's your answer. This way. What was on the left goes to the right and vice versa. That is easy if you remember how to handle that negative. So you've got to remember that. Okay? Okay, what about the next one? Well, this one's tougher because there's 2 things going on. What are the 2 things that are happening in this problem? Upside down and left 2. She is right on target. That's what's happening. You have to remember that if it's inside with the X, it goes the opposite way. So X plus 2 actually backs up. So I'm going to do this in 2 steps. You can do it in 1 if you're capable. I'm going to do it in 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is back my picture up. This is my original. Always go back to the original. I'm gonna back it up 2 steps. So my V is gonna be over here, and my circle is going to look like that. Would everybody agree that what I just drew is this thing backed up 2 units to the left? Now, we need to turn it upside down, because that's where that negative is. That's the upside down negative. The green is the answer to the question. On tomorrow's quiz, you will have to deal with adds and subtracts, like this was an add, and you'll have to deal with negatives. Today, we're going to talk about those multipliers, those coefficients, but that will not be on the quiz. The quiz is just negatives and subtracts, or adds. Taylor?
I'm so confused. So if it's negative, you go right? I don't.
If it's x minus 2 in the parentheses, yes, you go right. So if it's in the parentheses with the x, it's grouped with the x in the parentheses, it's right or left.
What if it's not?
Then it's up or down. So if the 2 were just on the end, it would go up. If it were plus 2, minus 2 would go down. All right, anybody have a question about that? Because now we're going to do some new stuff. That's tomorrow's quiz.
Can we get a graph paper on
Uh-huh.
the quiz?
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to what we were just trying to get to yesterday when we ran out of time. And that was, what happens when you have multipliers in your problem? So now I am on page 13, and we are doing problem 4. So I'm going to put my original up here. Now, yesterday, we were just starting to talk about this. Was anybody still paying attention when we talked about what that 2 right there does?
It
Harry?
multiplies the height.
It multiplies the height. So whatever number you have here multiplies your height. So what that means is, I'm going to have that picture exactly, but it is going to be 2 times as tall. So instead of this guy being up at 2, he's going to be all the way up at 4. So far, so good? Lindsay?
So like the ones on the x-axis.
Yep, because their height is 0, and if you times by 2, you still get 0. Now, the little semicircle there has to be 2 units tall now, so he's going to look like that. Because in the original, he went up 1. So now he's going to go up 2.
So, can you do the first one again? It goes up times.
So it goes up to 4. How tall is it right now? How tall is that right now?
2.
2 times 2 is 4. Now, how deep is this little trapezoid thing? How far down does he go? 1, right? So now he's going to go down how far? 2. He gets doubled. He's going to go down 2. So now my trapezoid looks like that.
And the numbers on the axis is
Yeah, but this is 1, 2, 3. I always use 1, 2, 3, yeah. And these do not change. If that's what you mean, the x-axis, that's what Lindsay asked. Those don't change. Talk about height now. Not this way yet. We'll talk about this way in a minute, but not now. So B. Now, any multiplier or any number out here in front, any multiplication coefficient out here in front is going to multiply the height. So this is going to take your height and multiply it by 1/2, which means essentially it's going to shrink it, right? Now what's that negative going to do? It's going to flip it upside down. That's our upside down negative. So again, that's 2 steps. Some of you are fine doing 2 steps. I am not, so I'm going to do one at a time. First thing I'm going to do is take 1/2. It's going to be 1/2 as tall. That means everything is 1/2 as tall. So see this mountain? How tall is he? 2. So if I half him, he's only going to be 1. So there's my mountain. Now he's only 1 tall. How tall is this circle? 1. Okay, now I'm halving it, so it's only going to be 1/2 now. How deep is the trapezoid? 1. So now he's only going to be 1/2. So there is 1/2 as tall. But what do I still need to do? Flip it. So now I'm going to turn it upside down. And there we go. Everybody still hanging in? Zach Bond?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you see a difference between where the 1/2 is in problem C and where the 1/2 and the 2 were in our 2 previous problems? Yeah. That 1/2 is now in the grouping with the x. That number divides the horizontal. Now I want you to be really careful with this. Basically I'm dividing by 1/2. And dividing by 1/2 is the same as timesing by 2. So what impact is that 1/2 going to have? It's going to stretch it. It's going to make it twice as long. And before you get confused, I want you to stop and think a minute. If I put x plus 2 into the parentheses in there, doesn't it do the opposite?
Yeah.
Doesn't it back up 2? So when I put a half here, I'm doing the opposite. Instead of halving, I'm actually going to double. Whenever you attach 2x in the grouping with the x, it does whatever the opposite is you think. So if it says a half, it really means times 2. What if it said 3x? What would 3x mean? Divide by 3. Right, make it a third as long. Okay, so what does that mean? This thing's going to go twice as long. Okay? So that means, now we're going to talk about length, not height. Height's not changing. How wide is this guy?
It'd be 4 now.
Well, it's 2 now,
But before,
so it's going to be 4. So you're going to have everything stretched out 2 times. So there's your mountain. It's twice as long. In the beginning, it was 2 units wide.
Does the top move with it? Like the weight of the mountain?
Yes. It was at 1, so now it would be at 2. Or negative 1. So it'd be negative 2. It does not get taller. It only gets wider. Now, how wide was the original circle?
1.
How wide was the original circle? 2. So now it's going to be 4.
So you're not looking at the height?
Not at all.
You're looking at
It's just width. Yep. The only time you look at height, Ashley, is if the number is out here. That's the height number. All right, now let's look at our trapezoid. How wide was it? It was 3. You had 1 step here, 1 step here, and 1 step here. Now you're still going to have 3 steps, but each of those steps is going to be 2. So this is going to be over 2, over 2, over 2. So here we go. Still down 1, but everything is 2. So it's very much stretched out. So now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units wide instead of 3. All right, here we go. Look at the next one. Aye. 2 things happening, right? What are the 2 things that are happening? Let's write it down. What's this 2 doing? So it's going to be twice as tall. What's this do? Be careful. So it's going to be a third as long. So in other words, it's going to be shrunken. Well, I'm going to do one at a time. I think the horizontals are always harder for me, so I'm gonna do that first. So I'm gonna do a third as long, and then when I get it drawn, I'll redraw it and make it twice as tall. Okay, so here we go, third is long. I'm gonna start here, back at the original, always go back to the original. How wide is this V? 2. So now it's gonna be a third of that, which means it's only going to be 2/3. Oh, folks, this is squishy. Here's 2/3. So here it is. The original V up to, but now it's only 2/3 wide. Okay. How wide's this semicircle?
2.
How long is it originally? 2. So now it too is going to be just 2/3. So there it is, all squished up in there. And now the trapezoid actually is 3 units long. So it's going to be condensed down to be a third of that, which is 1. Oh my goodness gracious.
Is it 1 from the previous one?
Uh-huh, yep, yep. So that 3 right there really squished up our picture. I know that's hard to do on your graph paper, I know. Point is, it's really squished, right? And then, now we gotta deal with this 2. So we're gonna take this squishy little thing, and we're going to make it twice as tall. So this point is gonna go all the way up to 4. These 2 are staying the same, so this is gonna be bizarre looking, but. So there we go, we got that big purple thing. Now my circle is gonna be up 2. And my trapezoid is down. So I'll get the black out of there. There you go. Yeah.
On its back, will we have like more than one space to draw it?
Yes. Well, I see what you're saying. Maybe for a test, maybe I should give you some scratch graph paper. Okay, yeah, remind me.
Or can we just like use markers?
Absolutely, you can use markers or colored pencils or pen. We okay with that? All right, here's what we're gonna do now then. I want you, let's do one more together, and then I want you to do some. Let's do E together, because that throws a couple of ideas in. There's my original. Let's do E together, and then I want you to practice some on your own. There are 2 things happening with E. Can anybody tell me what the 2 things are? What are the 2 things happening in this equation? Well, I have a negative. What do negatives always mean? Some kind of flip. Look where the negative is. It's in there with the x. This is on your quiz tomorrow. If the negative is in there with the x, what does that do? This way, this way, this way. Okay, I'm going to go through these rules one more time, kids. One more time. If you don't know them, you write them down and put them on flashcards and get them learned. here are the negative rules. This one, upside down. This one, across y-axis. Which one do I have in this problem? Across y-axis. So the first thing I'm going to do is flip-flop my equation, or my picture this way. Okay? Now, other rules. These both involve +2. Right?
First top one.
This one goes left 2, right or left, depending on if it's add or subtract. But since it's add, that's going to go left 2. And this one's going to go up 2. That's on your quiz tomorrow. This is on your quiz tomorrow. Now, what is not on your quiz tomorrow is what we're talking about right now. But let's write those rules down. What does this number do? Multiplies the height. So in this case, yes, it would be twice as tall because it's a 2. What does this number do? Divide the width. So if that's a 5, that means my width is going to be divided by 5. This one would be really squished. That's not on your quiz, but it's going to be on the next quiz, so make sure you get those rules learned. Right, so back to our last problem we're going to do together here. That negative flips it across the y-axis. So here's my V, here's my circle, and here's my trapezoid. So that's the picture I'm using now to do the next step, which is deal with this. Okay? What does that do? It divides the width. So see that triangle right there? He isn't going to be too wide on his base. He's only going to be 1 wide. So there's the same triangle, same height, but now he's only 1 wide. What about my circle? He's only going to be 1 wide also? How am I getting 1? Because I'm taking half of 2. The original width of this circle is 2. That divides it. Now the trapezoid, how wide is he? He's 3. So he's going to be 1.5 wide. So I have to draw my trapezoid in 1.5 steps instead of 3 steps. So that's my final answer. This was my first step. This was my final answer. Okay? Well, I think that's probably enough. I was going to have you try one, but I don't have time to check it. So you have some homework to do. You know what's on the quiz tomorrow. 2 problems. What's the first problem? Parametrics, T's. Second problem, graphing with negatives and adds and subtracts. Hope not.
saying, Harry, can't you help me? I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry.
I swear to God.
Wow.
I've seen him play basketball.
No, here's a good guy. They
Have
go.
you seen him play baseball? What? Bird like a
Guy, they go.
I don't know.
I walk up to him and lunch. Hey, pal. She's like, didn't you give me sarcasm?
Soundless with these receptions.
I'm breaking
He's fast.
Franny and Jennifer, come here and get your quizzes.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I thought we were gonna he didn't get any
He's big enough just to sing the rest of the
I went up to his car and right before we rolled out, oh, I forgot my phone. I was realized when I went back to my car, my phone left in the car. Because I just completely forgot that I left it on in his car. And then I was it's so repetitive.
It's like, it's scary.
Okay? Have a good day, everybody. See you tonight, Taylor.
I'm still working on one.
Huh?
I actually have a question.
Uh-huh.
So if it's like the number is on the X, that's when it multiplies to that.
Oh, yes.
But if it's like an equation, that's when it turns sideways.
Okay, so now I need to write that quiz. Tomorrow. As I have promised.